Welcome to Beer Grilled Skinny, where a mother-daughter team embraces the random. We look forward to spending time with you today. I hope you want to subscribe if you're here, possibly leave a comment, because we really would like some interaction. I'm Lorianne, the daughter.
And I'm Justine, the mama.
Today, we're going to be talking about spirits, but not quite what you think.
Yeah.
We're not talking about demons. We're talking about alcohol versus sugar.
Yeah.
You had some thoughts on this.
Oh, I do have some thoughts on this. The reason I've been spending time thinking about this subject is because it seems like some people, the minute they hear that you have alcohol, they want to say, oh, bad, you're very foolish. And so I've thought back about my family, and my dad had an alcohol problem. I think for him it was a behavior problem, and can't say anything different because when he knew he was going to lose his wife, he was able to put it down. My grandmother, his mother, she was able to smoke her Lucky Strike. It was okay to smoke back then, and shoot her morphine.
It wasn't just for the record, and it wasn't morphine, it was insulin. Just for the record, back then, they were actually giving cigarettes to soldiers.
I know.
We're talking World War II, folks.
Yeah.
They thought cigarettes were the latest and greatest thing. And this is why we cannot trust pharmaceutical companies.
Yeah, we really have to know, because my dad got to the place where he thought if she died with alcohol in her veins, she couldn't get through the pearly gates. So
your dad had some good points, but
yes,
he also had some
He had
ridiculous...
some smart things. I mean, he was smart when it came to figuring
Okay,
out
you
how to
can
make
keep
money.
telling me he's smart, and he didn't make that much money.
Yes, he did for his times. That's why your father thought he was marrying a wealthy woman.
That just makes both of them dumb.
Okay.
I mean, the fact that he didn't think... Okay, now, if you have been listening in our last episode, or the episode before that, there was an episode where we talked about how my father helped do the NAACP in Waynesboro. So he
Your
really cared
grandfather
about...
did.
Yeah, my grandfather, your father,
Yeah.
did the NAACP in Waynesboro. But at the same time, he held the belief that if a black person and a white person got married and had children, the children's teeth wouldn't fit in their mouth. And this is just an example of how people can hold some strange beliefs and still do good things.
So on the spirits, almost every single show you watch on television, somebody's going to go to a bar and have drinks. And I've reflected on that about what's good, what's not good. So I have this thing where I really like vodka. Actually, I like liquor. I do not drink too much. I don't trust what they say is too much, but I have been known to be drunk and drive drunk and nearly pass out drunk, but that was heartache. That had nothing to do with should I or should I not have been drinking the alcohol. I should have been tapering the alcohol.
Okay, that was a lot, and we need to give some context to our audience. This was a one-time thing back in the 80s. Mm-hmm. Her boyfriend had brought another woman into the house, and so she got really drunk and drove home. And yes, that is very bad behavior. I was there. This was actually a New Year's Eve because I was watching the ball drop in New York while waiting for my mom to get home. She got home that late. She comes home, I think I was 12. Anyhow, she was drunk. She was so drunk.
So I don't remember you being there.
Well, that's fine that you don't remember. But the next day, I not only asked her to stop drinking, full stop, because I was 12. I didn't know that you could have balance. And I had already heard about her father. And I played this song for her, this Christian song about I don't care where you've been sleeping and all this stuff, because I wanted her to feel loved. We had focused heavily on the fact that if you slept with someone after you had been divorced and you were female, there's a scripture about this. I'm not even going to look it up because we shouldn't be taking that stuff literally. But if you slept with someone you'd be sending them to hell if you were a woman.
Yeah.
It's not a big deal if you're a man.
Yeah.
Makes no sense at all.
Yeah.
And she literally picked a guy that she was like, well, he's on his way to hell anyway.
He was so on his way to hell. So on his way to hell, if there is a hell. There's some kind of payment. I know that. But anyhow, so that's why I've been looking at the spirits versus sugar, because you go into some doctor's offices and they hear that you've been drinking anything. In their mind, that was the bottom of the problem. So they don't even look for what the problem really might be.
I understand, because I went through a situation where I had been drinking too much. And so I thought, I've watched shows like House, where the guy on House says, people always lie. So if they say they only drink a little, just assume that they're drinking a lot. Cops have this attitude, too. The cops have this attitude of, believe half of what you hear and none of what you see. And I think doctors are the same way. I don't know why they're trained that way, but my ignorance of admitting exactly what I was doing and being very specific about it caused them to put this mark in my file like I was an alcoholic. When I was telling them this, I was like, but I have stopped. So I used to drink too much, but I have stopped and I'm having a lot of pain. And their suggestion was to keep taking NSAIDs, non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, which falls under the label of things like Advil, aspirin, naproxen. People know it. I can't remember the name brand of it. The only one that's not like that is Tylenol. And the difference between NSAIDs and Tylenol is NSAIDs go through your kidneys, and Tylenol goes through your liver. You see, I've done some research. You don't have to be a doctor to know these things. Well, I kept going in saying that I was having pain, and I was having severe pain, and I was weakening by the day. It got to the point, Mom and I, with our dark humor, I couldn't walk down the hall to get to the bathroom in our house, so we put me in an office chair, and she scooted me down the hall to get to the bathroom. That's how bad it was. When I finally collapsed and had to have CPR by my husband, they took me to the hospital. They did a blood test. The nurse came back, and he looked like he had lost all of his blood. He was literally pale. He's like, we're going to have to do this a second time. Basically, I had lost so much blood, they didn't know how I was still alive. But, that's how I roll. And it's because they kept blaming alcohol, which I was not using at all at this point. I wasn't drinking any alcohol.
Yeah.
And they were just determined that's what it was. But it's because they told me to keep taking NSAIDs, and it caused a bleeding ulcer, which was easily fixed up with a colonoscopy, endoscopy, and a couple of transfusions. But I almost died because they decided that alcohol was my problem no matter what, and dismissed all of my issues as a result. Then had the audacity to blame me for being stubborn, and that's how I got into the hospital, even though they're the ones that told me to keep taking NSAIDs, which I don't touch with a 10-foot pole now. I'm really not pleased with pharmaceuticals.
No, I'm not either, in so many different directions. Like when I was making commercials, I told my agent that I would not do any for pharmaceuticals.
Or beer.
Yeah. And when I was looking for temp work, I would say I do not want any temp work for a pharmaceutical company.
I remember back in the day, the old westerns that they would do, where somebody needed like a tooth pulled or take a bullet out, and they would just give them alcohol as the medicine. Like, take a shot of this whiskey and then bite down on this wooden stick.
Yeah.
And now we act like alcohol's the enemy.
So
Anything's the enemy if you have too much of it.
when they think they've traced the origin of alcohol back to this woman, Mary the Jewess, and they called her an alchemist, and I'm like, we're curious, when did we drop that AL? And
I
just
can
call them
answer that
chemists?
for you.
Okay.
The difference between an alchemist and a chemist is an alchemist uses spiritual aspects, and they're kind of like a philosopher / witch. I don't know what you call them when it's a man, but what they do is
Wizard.
possibly wizard or warlock. They look at things like trying to turn lead into gold.
Yeah. Okay.
And so it's sort of a spell kind of thing. The chemists use the periodic table to see how to combine different chemicals to do things.
Well, it's attributed to her for having made the first distillery. And by the way, the word, making alcohol with a still, is where that word comes from. So when you're doing moonshine, you got a still up in the mountains making your moonshine.
Well, I would imagine when you're not doing moonshine, there's a still involved.
Yeah, but they call it, professionally it's called a distillery. But she was working with different kinds of plants. And the base to alcohol, and we're talking specifically about liquor here, the base is just your primary foods, grains, nuts, whatever. And then they add yeast, and then they add water. And I'm like, that's the same thing they do for bread.
Oh, wait, nuts?
Yeah.
What kind of liquor is made out of nuts?
I want to find that out, too.
I mean, I know they make vodka out of both potatoes and some other vegetable.
So it's plant-based, and the way the alcohol gets done is they boil it until certain ramalama, and
okay.
Out of
Look
that
at
comes
your
alcohol.
notes, not certain ramalama.
Well, I don't think y'all need the recipe. I could be very wrong here.
That's true. You don't need the recipe. They do ramalama. That's all you
Yes.
need to know.
And so, and that's the way they do it now. And so we can go to sugar. And back when you were having your problems, you weren't drinking liquor. You were drinking wine. And they don't try to get the sugar out of wine.
Which problem are we talking about?
When you had the ulcer and they said
I wasn't drinking wine. I was not drinking at all.
Okay.
I was just busy losing blood.
Okay.
For the record, this really famous scientist called Feynman, Richard Feynman, I think it was, died from an ulcer like that.
Ooh.
Again, I should be dead.
Yeah.
But I just, I'm not ready to go.
Yeah, well, the prophet
But I was
said.
not drinking any wine. The wine came after, and that's a different story.
Okay. All right. But I noticed because, pretty much every day I have a vodka and sometimes a little bit of brandy, and I think about, well, they say a woman should only have one drink a day and that men can have 2 drinks a day. So I'm very observant about what I put in my body.
Okay, so you're just identifying as a man when you have 2 drinks.
Yes. Yes, that sounds good.
That's the thing that gets me about biology. I'm not trying to get political, y'all, but let's be honest. Women and men are different biologically, and you can't just decide you want to be the other one and do all the things they do. I wish I could. I'm very jealous of my husband's strength privilege and height privilege.
Yeah.
This is
at the
just,
same time, it's kind of nice when you've got it.
Exactly. He's a good
Yeah.
husband, and he
So
will get things for me off of the top shelf without me having to get a step stool.
The sugar.
I have a friend that has to climb on the counter to get anything. Her husband's not very tall either. I'm not going to say names.
Okay.
But she climbs up on the counter, and she can stand straight up on the counter and still not hit the ceiling and get stuff out of the top shelf. I do not know what this couple is in the same neighborhood we're in, and we really wonder what the builders were thinking when they put the cabinets up so high.
I know it.
I mean, we're not Nordic people.
And not only that, still didn't put cabinets all the way to the ceiling. You get that dust collector on top of the cabinets, but that's not part of tonight. We can bitch and moan and groan some other time.
Beer grilled skinny.
Yes. So the thing of it is, sugar came from Asia. It was also a cooking process.
So China's been trying to kill us forever.
Asia. So it wasn't just China. It was Asia.
Asia's a continent.
Okay. China's a country.
I understand that, but you
Yeah.
can't just say it was from Asia. Did you know, as long as we're going to do beer grilled skinny, did you know, we always talk about Indian food being spicy.
Yeah.
They never had the peppers until we got to the New World. We got all that stuff from Mexico.
Did we
and then it
really?
went to India, and they just went wild with it. They're like, yes, we love these peppers. But it came from the New World.
Huh.
So when you just say Asia, it makes me want to look up and see where sugar actually came from. You can't just say Asia.
Well, the references are China, Thailand, India. I think there's another one, but I don't remember exactly.
What's interesting to me is when I was a child, I really liked sugar.
Oh, didn't you just?
And my mother thought, being the not always too bright person, I'm so glad we don't give alcohol to kids, because she would have done the same thing with that. She was like, if I give you all the sugar you want, you'll get sick of it, and you won't ever want to eat it again.
Yeah, I was so sure of that.
And instead, I got addicted to it, and I really wanted to eat it all the time.
And we didn't know back then that you could get addicted to sugar.
And people still deny the fact that
I
you can
know.
get addicted to sugar. But I tell you what, when I went on the carnivore diet, I got over sugar for the first time in the half century that I have lived.
Now, swinging back around to our medical empire here on this
Yes,
country.
when I'll never forget when I was in the hospital. So I've been in the hospital 3 times. The first time was the ulcer. The second time was a seizure, which we think may have been caused by my breast implant, but that's a whole different story. And then the third time was a weird form of ketoacidosis. I do not have diabetes, and I am not addicted to alcohol. It was strictly because I stopped eating due to COVID and had the wrong water. I didn't have any electrolytes in
So
it.
it's been 4 times then, because you mentioned 3 things and you didn't mention the cancer.
Oh, I don't count that. That was just like you went and had surgery. I'm talking about emergency
Okay. All right, yes.
hospitalizations.
Okay. Yeah.
And the first 2 times, I was like sitting there, oh, I'm in the hospital. I'm going to get me some food. I want this. And they're like, no, we've noticed your cholesterol is high, so you can't have any of the meat. We're just going to give you sugar. You can have Jell-O.
Yeah.
You can have all this stuff, but you can't have anything with fat in it.
Swinging back around to, medical people.
But I wanted to finish what I was
Okay.
saying, which is the third time, because I was in there for starvation ketoacidosis, they were like, you can have any of the food that you want. We don't care if you have high cholesterol. Just have any of the food because we need you to eat. And I get the food. And this is where I'm calling for, we have listeners that have any access to Gordon Ramsay. I really, really, really want him to start doing the food in the hospitals. It can be a whole new reality show. Instead of
Yes.
worrying about kitchen nightmares,
Yes.
go to the hospitals and tell them how to make decent food, because these people couldn't even boil corn properly. I finally got the opportunity to have all the food because I had had the ketoacidosis. And here's where we ended up with that. My husband had to make food and bring it to me.
Yeah.
Or buy food
Yeah.
from a restaurant because the hospital food is terrible.
So swinging around to that, you go to a doctor. They don't ask you, have you been eating sugar? They ask you, have you been drinking alcohol? Nowhere on the list of things that you have problems with do they even bring in sugar. And yet we know that is just a really powerful drug.
Some of us know it. A lot of people don't want to admit it.
And there again, I think it's okay to have some, but I'd rather have
like
a
most
glass of
drugs.
vodka than, a piece of cake.
Well, I don't know. It depends on the cake. We all live and learn. I would be interested in what you guys think if you wish to comment. I have friends that have spouses that are keto and they want to keep their wine, or people that love the sugar, doesn't seem to be affecting them. I mean, we're all different,
Yeah,
really.
we are. We really are.
Sugar was not a good thing for me. It caused me a lot of emotional ups and downs. I mean, there was a point where I was sneaking to eat sugar because my husband was anti-sugar, and that man thinks he can tell me what to do, but he'd be wrong. And I will sometimes do things that aren't good for me because you've challenged me not to do said things, because I'm very willful and stubborn.
We now have that on a recording. Thank you very much.
And I inherited this from my mother, so I don't even know what her point is. You gave me this.
I am not one to want somebody to tell me what to do.
I know. You used to read books under the covers with
I
a
know.
flashlight.
Yeah.
I don't even know how you got the flashlight. Your parents failed.
Yes.
All right, y'all. That's it for today. If you have any comments, we would be interested. I know we keep harping on that because we're not getting any comments. I appreciate that you listen. Please subscribe and like if you like this kind of content.
And ask questions. Surely you must be a little curious about us.
And we'd be happy to do follow-ups. I mean,
Yes.
you can ask us anything you want. And if we
know.
think it's crazy, we'll ignore you. But if it's really good, we will absolutely answer
Yes,
you.
we will.
It'll be fun. All right. We'll see you on the flip side.
And every moment together, we conquer our fears. With dreams in our hearts and the world in our sight. We're beer grill skinny, ready